All right, so we're back for episode 2 of Sort of Hi-Fi. This is Carlo Larazzo, editor-in-chief at Home Theater Secrets, and I'm Taps, and I just contribute articles and video to the site as well.
Oh, you do more than that.
and some other stuff, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm downplaying it a little bit.
That's all right. That's all right. Taps is a vital member of the Secrets family. So this is super cool.
I'm all in. So what's up, man?
Still, it's been a busy week. Still playing catch up from being, traveling all through May. But I know the last video we spoke about the Munich high-end show and covered a few things about that. And I was thinking, I don't know, maybe this show I kind of was thinking it might be fun to talk about because right after Munich I went with some other writers from the audio press for like a week trip into Italy to visit 3 Italian audio manufacturers. So I don't know. I thought maybe that might be kind of a fun thing to talk about for this one, if that sounds cool with you.
Yeah, I'm all in. Yeah, I saw Cheap Audio Man was there with you too, right?
He was. Yeah. It was a great crew of audio press journos that were on this trip. I mean, Randy, Cheap Audio Man. You know what? I got a list.
He comes across as really fun.
He is. He's hysterical. Actually, his sense of humor that he has is just like it's so funny. But like everybody, I mean, all the personalities that were on this trip. There was like about let's see, was it one, including me? There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 folks on this trip. And I would travel with these guys anywhere. I mean, they were
awesome.
Just the best. They were a ton of fun. And we all kind of hit it off on this thing. So, besides me, there was, on this trip, there was Randy Messman, who's the Cheap Audio Man, Michael Lavornia from Twittering Machines, Ken McAuliffe, longtime, writer for Stereophile, Jason Messina, who goes by the handle of Audiophile Junkie.
Okay.
I got to know him a little better on this trip. I've seen him at shows, and you can't miss him because he's like dressed in the most, like, he's got like these big sparkly cowboy hats and like sparkly like jackets and pants and cowboy boots, and he's walking around shows like videoing.
Did you do a podcast with him?
He did.
He did a little interview or something.
He did
like
a little
that?
interview with me. Yeah, while we were there.
Okay, I think I saw that.
Yeah. I've seen him at shows, but I never really kind of met him or got to know him until on this trip. And super fun guy and just hysterical. Really, really funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There was also Tom Martin, who actually is the owner of the Absolute Sound. He was on the trip. Great guy too. He's like a fountain of information and like told some. He's great talking to him on the train. He was like just told some great stories. And Brian Stout, who has his own Instagram channel called Woody's Sound Up. He basically does like a lot of sort of unboxing videos and a lot of just kind of, his camera work is gorgeous. I mean, just these gorgeous shots and videos of various gear and stuff. And he actually just got picked up by Fidelity Imports, who basically was sponsoring this trip. So he kind of does a little side video work for them. So he was on,
nice.
He was on the trip as well. So the trip was hosted by Fidelity Imports. Steve Jan and his team there took us to visit 3 Italian audio manufacturers or brands that his company distributes in the States. So they were, and I make sure I get this right. So Unison Research and Opera Loudspeaker, which are like sort of sister companies for the same place. And they were located in Treviso, which is kind of near Venice. Then Goldnote, which was located near Florence. And then we ended up visiting Audia Flight / Alare Speakers, which is also kind of a couple of sister companies. And they're in like a small seaside town called Civitavecchia, which is just north of Rome. It's kind of like Rome's port city, actually. So, So yeah, that's kind of the the itinerary that we sort of had, and over a week we visited these brands. So it was. Sorry, go ahead.
Out of the cities, so like I've been to Florence and I think it was beautiful, but like out of the 3 locations, which was like the most like, oh, I don't want to be inside city.
Oh, I don't want to be inside city. You know what? Florence, where we were staying in Florence, well, we were staying sort of just outside Florence, kind of in the Tuscany region, and the place we were staying at was this kind of inn at the and to get to it, it was like at the top of this sort of like small mountain hill thing, and in order to get to it, you had to go up these crazy ass roads that were like that looked like they had been built for like people riding donkeys. I mean, they were not paved; it was gravel, and like they had potholes all over the place, and there were like switchback turns and all this stuff. So it was kind of crazy to get up there. But once you got up there, oh my God, the view from up there was, you saw just, when you think of Tuscany in your mind, you have this sort of, just sort of fantasy glorified thing of all these valleys and, orchards and all this stuff, this beautiful landscape. And it was all that. It was all that from up there. I mean, oh my God, it was gorgeous. So that was beautiful. I mean, that was really, really beautiful. So yeah, I would probably have to say that one. I mean, just that spot. But I mean, each one of these places had like had these gems. I mean, you can't go wrong in any of them. I mean, so when we left, let me start with this way. When we left Munich after the show, we took the train from Munich to Treviso. And that was like, you kind of go through the Alps and stuff and through the mountains and everything. And, the scenery was also gorgeous going through that. And you get to Treviso. Yeah. And before we actually got a tour of Unison and opera, we got a tour of Bartolomeo, the one of the principals who runs Unison and opera, Bartolomeo Nasta. We got a tour of one of his very close family friends' winery. So we got on a wine tour the day that we showed up, and again it was just gorgeous. I mean, we drove, I think, a little ways, and I think it was close to. Did he say it was close to the border where Italy borders Slovenia? I think I forget.
Okay.
But it was just, I mean, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Like just classic Italian wines region with like these, fields of grapes everywhere and like old villas and different spots. Yeah, I know. You're dying. I'm sorry. But
no. I've been into I did Tuscany and I did Florence.
Uh-oh. Sorry, let me just turn that off. Cool. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did Tuscany and I did Florence, and it was just like I could live in Tuscany. It was a small town. It was like Dicamano, I think it was called, and it was like a 45-minute train away from Florence. But like it was the countryside, and it was the same thing when we drove in. When we actually got to Italy, they gave us like a station wagon, like a Ford Topaz station, and so we're doing that on the highway, and like everyone drives at like 160.
Yeah.
So the car is not capable of doing the highway, and everyone's just lapping us. But then when we got to we stayed like at an olive oil farm, and it was the same thing. It's just like winding road. It's only wide enough for like a Fiat, and so when we're driving up, there's another car driving down, and you just feel like you're going to die. And we had our newborn kid with us, and so we get up to the top, and then my wife at the time, she was just like, you got to go into the store. I'm not going. I'm like, you want me to drive down this thing by myself? And I just rode neutral and rode the brake all the way down the cliffside.
Yeah.
But then after like a day or two, you just get used to it, and then it just became fun. So, but yeah, like the hills are beautiful. Like the whole place is gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean the scenery.
Good wine, good oil.
Oh yeah, I know. And not to. I mean, this is supposedly a chat about visiting audio manufacturers and stuff, but I mean. The winery, was just
Oh, I could talk about wine over hi-fi every day.
the winery was gorgeous. Tunella was the name of the winery. Tunella, and it
Okay.
was like they were an official certified organic winery, but
Oh, wow.
the facilities were just beautiful, and I mean they walked us through the entire harvesting and winemaking steps and
Yeah.
everything, and they showed us their I think it was this caverns storage area stuff, and where the giant barrels were for fermenting and everything, and it was just, and of course we got the
What
samples and
kind of
stuff.
wine do they specialize in
They do. They did.
there?
They
Is
did
or
both
like
reds and whites, but they're varietals that I'm not familiar with. It's not like cabs, merlots, and stuff in Chardonnay. Although I think they did a Chardonnay. It was a different grape varietals that I wasn't really familiar with, but we tasted good. I mean, there's no getting around it. I mean, it tasted really good. And
did you bring some bottles back?
no, I didn't. I
Oh.
didn't. I kind of kicking myself for not doing it, but next time. But Bartolomeo. I should say this first. Unison and Opera are currently run by two brothers, Bartolomeo and Riccardo, and their mother, Donatella. So
Oh, wow.
it is like a tight family operation. I mean, it was part of the company. Opera loudspeaker part was founded by Bartolomeo's and Riccardo's father, and the Unison research part was founded by a family friend of the father, and then eventually they kind of combined over the years. But Bartolomeo, or Bart as we called him, he is also, besides being, an audio guy and everything, he is a sommelier, like an officially highly well trained
Oh,
sommelier. So, so having him
that's
on,
amazing.
I know it's like wine, audio, wine, hi-fi. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing combination. You couldn't have asked for anything better than that. But yeah,
So, and the longer the day gets, the better everything sounds,
yes,
right?
yeah,
'Cause-
yes, yeah. And my Italian is like is rusty at best, because I mean, there's no Italian family here in Ohio for me to practice it on. But after
Yeah.
about a few minutes, after about a couple of days, my Italian and some wine, my Italian started getting better. So it was
Nice.
it was good. It was good. But yeah, Bart was fantastic, and he was like, he did his. I have like a little video or some pictures of him like having this giant, what almost looked like this giant dropper, like almost an eyedropper, and he's like getting grappa out of out of this bottle, and he's like using this giant like glass eyedropper thing, and like distributing it into these little sipping glasses, and we all got to
Oh my
try it
God.
and stuff. And it's just like, oh, it was crazy. But that's the wine tour part of it, which we took care of at the front end, so it's done. It was done with. But yeah, visiting.
I almost want to open a bottle right now just to.
I know. I just finished my afternoon espresso here, and I'm just like, oh, there's a little more left. And yeah, now I'm kind of like, grappa, wine. I'm gonna get my hands on here.
I have this ugly thing.
Oh no! What is that? A urinal? What is that? I don't want to know.
No, it's my giant 2-liter bottle, and that I have to get throughout the day because I don't drink enough water, sort of thing.
Okay.
But I threw like a vitamin tab.
Oh, okay. I see what's going on.
Palatable. I'm gonna hit it right now. Here.
Okay. So vitamin water. There you go. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So,
but getting
so the factory.
yeah, getting down to the hi-fi end of it. So Unison and Opera, again, beautiful, wonderful, tight family knit operation that runs it. And they've been around for about 40 years. The Unison part of it, they specialize in making really, really high quality tube amps. and also
Okay.
like tube amps and also hybrids. So it's like the hybrids have, I believe, a tube preamp stage and a solid state amplification stage. So they
Okay.
have those two lines. The the, um, the tube line. There's a couple different, um, a few different ones. I mean, they have something called um, the simply line. So there's a simply 845, which uses 845 tubes, and there's a simply Italy, which is like a smaller one, an S6 uh, tube integrated. I mean, these are all integrated. Some that I'm talking about, and then they have these
Yeah.
larger ones called the Absolute series, which are these massive tube integrateds. Um, that are just absolutely gorgeous. And then the hybrid line is called the Unico series, and those look actually much more modern. They're in very nicely uh, styled sort of modern aluminum cases, but they um, and they have all the sort of kind of modern connections and DACs and stuff that you'd associate with those types of components. But they have the tube front end. Um, just
Are
really
these all
nicely
like
built
those really
stuff.
big? These are like the really big ones, right?
They're not, they're not huge. I mean, if you're talking the tube, most of the tube amps they make are not that big. They're moderately sized until you get into sort of the Absolute series, and those are like bigger, like kind of bigger
Okay.
and wider. Um, if you see the Simply 845, I think that's a gorgeous looking one because it's got like a wood front panel and these two big 845 series tubes that are just gorgeous. Um, and
So I'm just typing it in.
oh, no worries, no worries.
So the Unico series.
The Unico series is the hybrid stuff. So that's they have the tube front end with the solid state amplification stage. Um,
Okay, and then the valve,
the
the ones I'm looking at.
valves are the straight tube line stuff.
Okay, they're definitely pretty.
Oh yeah, yeah, very very pretty. Um, and everything. I mean, it's all made there. I mean, they've been around for 40 years approximately, and it's all made there. All their supply they pride themselves on um, getting all their suppliers are local or as local as can be. Maybe with the exception of like
Hmm.
the RCA connection jacks or some minor switching and stuff like that. But everything else, all the parts that they use and everything is all like Italian, all local, and that's really really important to them. Um, and it's almost like they're if you could call it this, they're almost like a farm to table restaurant, I guess, because everything is just they really really impressed upon us how big a deal it was for them to source everything locally within Italy as much as possible, just so they have direct connection with all their suppliers and they can visit them on a moment's notice and anything they need they can get really quickly, relatively speaking. Um,
Is there like a maybe this should be a question for later, but like, is there like an Italian sound? You know, how, like you
mhm.
hear like American products may sound a certain way, and then British hi-fi has a sound sometimes. Is
Mhm.
there like a even if it's kind of made up? Is there like an Italian sound, or is it like
I don't know. I don't know exactly how to answer that. I mean, I could. I've heard a number of Italian speakers. The Sonus Fabers of the world, and
Mhm.
and some of opera's speakers. Like they have the Calais and which was there, or the Callis because it's named after the opera singer. Forget her first name, but last name is Callis. I call it Calais, but it's Callis. Um,
those are like really really pretty speakers
They
too?
are. They are. I mean, they're just gorgeous looking speakers, and the woodwork on them is really, really nice. Um, I the best way I could describe Italian sound when it comes to speakers, because that's what I have the most
Mhm.
familiarity with, is that they tend to they tend to flatter the music is the best way I can describe it. Um, they're not neutral sounding, not
Oh, okay.
not you know on the same sort of thing as, like, say, my revels, for example. My revels are what I would consider a neutral sounding speaker. My
Mhm.
sulks, my sulk song towers, I consider a more neutral sounding speaker. Um, Italian speakers like the Sonos Faber and Opera, um, they sound really good. They sound really appealing. Um,
Mm.
but there's a little more going on in the mid range and up into the higher frequencies. Um, not so much that it becomes that's irritating or anything, or that it's just like it's startling, but enough that it's kind
Mhm.
of like it's almost like a little bit of juice added to, like, sweeten the pot, so to speak, to sweeten the sound. Um, I don't know how they do it, how they tune it, but it's just done in such a way where things just sound really appealing and really sweet, and but without getting irritating or annoying or anything like that. I mean, it's just really nice, and it's not to the point where it sounds like overdone. So I mean, that's sort of the best way I can describe it. And then an Italian
So
speaker. Oh,
more
sorry. Go ahead.
no, so I was like, so more up my alley versus like how like it seems like in North America everyone's looking for studio monitors for home. Like it's more like,
I suppose. I
hey,
suppose.
we
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would. I think you would. I mean, I think you would like it. I mean, if we got, I think we were trying to see about getting some Sonos Fibers or something for you to check out or whatever.
they're arriving
Oh,
actually.
that's right. They are arriving, aren't they?
Yeah, today the as an aside, the Focal Thiva line just showed up,
Uh huh.
and then I have the Sonus Faber Lumina Center, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting for the fives to show up. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so there's plenty coming. So,
Good. So you should get you
but
should
I've
get a
been
good
waiting for those.
you should get an
What's
experience
that?
then. You should get a good experience then for when those
Yes.
when those when those show up.
I mean,
Yeah.
considering I only asked for the Lumina twos, but the fives are coming, I'm just like, all right.
They like you. They must like you. but but yeah, I mean, and it's been said that Italian speakers have come a long way from originally when a number of them were designed strictly by ear, or tuned strictly
Hmm.
by ear, versus now where a lot more modern and advanced measuring methods have come in, and they've incorporated that. I mean, things are still tuned obviously with ear at the end to kind of get the final sound, but they've incorporated a lot more modern techniques and measurements and stuff to basically the sound much better, much more consistent. So
Was there actually no, we're talking about speakers now as well, but out of the amplifiers that you heard, um was there a model that they decided to showcase to you as far as
you know
like
what
here's the newest thing or
they out of the Valve stuff. I mean, I've heard the Unico stuff before, and it's very good. It sounds very, very good, and not overly tubey, I guess. I mean, it's a nice balance happening in there. Um,
Mhm.
but the valve or tube stuff that they had, they were at Munich. They announced that they were releasing what do they call it? It was like a black series, which is
Okay.
which basically they've gone into some of their tube amps. I think it's like the S6 and I think one or two others, and they're doing they're having this new line where basically they've gone in and they've updated some of the internals, improved some of the basically what they've done is they've reduced, gone in, and where they've reduced the noise floor, um, reduced any chance of crosstalk in the channels, and gotten a little more power out of them. So the Black Series They're still keeping the regular line that they have, but this black series is going to be a separate line that's going to cost a little bit extra, and it's all
Okay.
obviously finished in black with nickel plated accents for the knobs and other things. So they were really really excited to show us those, and we heard I think it was like I think it was an S6 when we were demoing some of their speakers actually at the factory, and really nice sounding amp. Very quiet for a tube amp, but just really nice sounding, really nice sounding.
What is the for anyone just that is like me that doesn't really know much about tube amps? Like, when you buy a tube amp, how often do you have to switch out the tubes themselves? Is it like an upkeep thing?
I don't know how many hours. I think it depends on the tubes. Um, but I think they'll eventually wear out and they'll need to be replaced. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not an expert on tube stuff, so I couldn't tell you how many hours per se. I'm
And
sure there are people who may chime in on the comments who are a little more knowledgeable who'll say, but yeah,
okay.
they'll need to be replaced after a while.
And then is there like a power discrepancy, I guess, between tube amps and their like solid state brethren?
Yeah, people say that there's a difference between tube watts and solid state watts. I don't know how true that
Okay.
is. I think um, tube stuff in general works best when it's paired with rather efficient speakers. You'll get the most
Mhm.
out of it. Um, and so I think that's just in general what's the best idea, unless you get like a tube amp that's got some serious stones in it. But typically at normal listening levels we don't use a ton of watts. I mean, you're not using 200 watts when you're listening at just like normal casual listening levels. I mean, you may be using, I don't know, 10, if that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, tube amps are really, really shine at normal, at normal listening levels. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I don't know I don't know how true that whole tube watts versus solid state watts difference is. There's
Hmm.
definitely technical differences and stuff in there, but I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you exactly what they are. So
Okay. And is there a reason they chose to use tubes versus,
I think
I
it's
guess,
just
normal?
I think it's just the sound. It's and they they started using. I think they started using what was it? They they were using um, their oldest product is what they call is an amp or an integrated called the Absolute 845, and it's the oldest product in their catalog. I mean, they've been around since I think 1987, and they used they were I think one of the first manufacturers to use like these 845 tubes, which were actually signaling tubes used in World War II.
Oh, wow.
That's where they got their start from, because they were sort of robust and they were made to be used like in the field, for communications and stuff. And they experimented with them to use in like music reproduction application, and they apparently they sounded really good because they're still using them. Um, but tubes have that, have the sound, have that sort of warm sound to them because of the second order harmonics, and the distortion profile that makes them, really appealing sounding, very smooth.
Hmm.
People call them sweet, this and that, all sorts of other adjectives. But yeah, I mean, that's the main reason people use tubes, is because they just like the way they sound. Um,
Okay.
so um, that's kind of really it. As far as like, I mean,
Do you
sorry,
have a tube amp at your place, or?
I not regular. I mean, I've had the occasional tube amp here. I haven't had like a real. I've had a hybrid in here, but I haven't had like a
Mhm.
real just straight tube amp in here before. And I need to get my
Okay.
hands on one because I would. I mean, I'd love to. told the guys at Fidelity I'd love to review a Simply 845 if they ever get one around. But I've heard them before, and
I can only imagine what shipping on that would be.
it has to be careful. Be very careful. I mean, I've had tube headphone amps. I had a tube headphone. I have a Stax, a pair of Stax headphones and a Stax tube Energizer amp in here, and then and I've had other ones for electrostatic headphones, and yeah, they sound great. Definitely a little different than solid state, but not like a hi-fi tube amp that I haven't had yet. So, but yeah, at some point I'll get one for sure.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else I should mention. Yeah,
but that's just for Unison research, right?
Right. That's just Unison.
Okay.
And and we were talking the sister part, the opera loudspeaker part. That was the part that was founded by Bartolomeo and Ricardo's dad. Yeah, they just make some really, really pretty loudspeakers, and with Italian touch with the leather detailing and stuff, and the wood and everything, and it's just it's really, really nice sounding stuff, and all handmade, hand cut, hand assembled there. They source most of their drivers, I think, from from Sias in Norway, and Scanspeak from I think Scanspeak's in Denmark, I think. But that's where they source, I think, most of their drivers from. But most of the all the electronics and the crossover stuff, that's all local Italian sourcing for that. So, but yeah,
I noticed on I think it's their Grand Callis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they have tweeters on the back.
Yeah, they do.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Like some of the high end Sonos Faber speakers have them, and there's a couple other speakers out there. It's not very common, but it's just, they do that to kind of add what do they call it, like air and sort of spaciousness to the top end, I think. So so yeah, but there's what was it? I think Axiom in Canada might have some of their speakers that might have tweeters in the back end, some of their omnidirectional ones. So there's a couple, not a lot, but there's a few manufacturers that do that. Also, excuse me, Opera was also announced that they were introducing they were developing, and it should be out, I think, by the Q4 of this year, a more affordable line of loudspeakers. There was a bookshelf that they had called the Prima, and mid-sized tower, I think was called the Quinta. That they were showing us as well, and very similar design to what they already have in terms of like the Callus and stuff, but just made to a more affordable price point, still nicely put together, really sturdy cabinetry and stuff. I think they're using veneer or wrap as opposed to solid wood for the outside. But otherwise, and they got us. They had a couple prototypes that they demoed for us at the factory and stuff. So it was very, very, it looked like they weren't quite ready yet, but what we heard was like, okay, these could be pretty amazing for the price. So I think they were trying to get them down to don't quote me, but I think the bookshelves, the Primas, were going to be like about $3,000 for the pair, and I think the Quintas, the towers, would be like $6,000 for the pair. I think they were talking. So that's kind of what price point they were shooting for with those. But they should be around, I think Q4 this year, from what they were saying.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of. I've visited a number of audio manufacturers, and big ones and stuff, and I've been really impressed with the technology that they have, and how everything's setup and just the efficiency and all that stuff. You go to a place like Unison and Opera, and it's like it is. I mean, the whole small artisanal craftsman family thing. It's you everywhere you look. I mean, it's a small operation. They have a hand-picked crew of people, and but everything is done by hand and done really well, and just everything is overbuilt. I mean, each one of the manufacturers we visited, that was one of the probably the most common. If I could point to one common thing in all three of those manufacturers we visited, is that everything was like severely overbuilt, extremely overbuilt. Not severely. Severely is like wrong word, but it's extremely overbuilt. I mean, they were showing us the transformers that they use in the Unison research stuff, and I mean these transformers are like super high, very high quality Italian made transformers. They're toroids, so they're round. They're inserted inside a kind of like an iron casing, and then the casing is then the transformer inside the casing is totally immersed in resin, and so it's to prevent any and that is to prevent like any noise, any distortion, anything from coming out of that transformer, and interfering with the sound. But these things are just like huge, and they weigh a ton. For the tube amps, they use these huge. I don't know, they're not R-core transformers, but they're these big square that looks like old school style transformers, and they're just massive for some of those amps. And all the circuit design stuff they showed us was like beautifully laid out, really cleanly designed. And then you go into the woodworking part of it, and just the handmade craftsmanship and attention to detail in the woodworking and the stretching of the leather and the detailing, all that stuff. It's just like it's craftsmanship. It's artisanal. It's just something amazing to see, and you don't run into that very often.
It's funny, like when I think of, and this is probably just because of movies, whenever I think of like Craftsmen in Italy, I just think of coffee and cigarettes. I think it was like the Ferrari or the Lamborghini movie that with I forgot what the actor is, the action actor who was in the Lamborghini movie, and like everyone's just chain smoking through that movie, and so now even though it's totally not right, that's just how I think of, just like, oh, giant transformer, just cigarette.
Besides the resin, they pour like some used cigarette ashes and stuff in there just to kind of
like like I'm guilty for my North Americanness, I guess, but like that's kind of what I think. But then when you're describing him, like it's probably a smoke-free facility.
You know what? There was the odd person that smoked, but I was actually surprised, having visited Italy. My family's Italian, having visited in a few times when I was younger. I was noticing a lot less people smoking, than I mean, there's still people that smoke, but I noticed it's not as much as it used to be. Definitely not as much as it used to be. So that's you burst that bubble there for you. So
no, I figured as much. It's in my head as you're talking. I'm just like, oh yeah,
funny.
I know what this looks like.
The weirdest,
and everyone looks like they're in the 40s. So.
Another bubble to burst there.
Yes.
Was the hotel we were staying at when we were visiting Unison. As soon as the first afternoon we walked in there to check in, there was this convention going on in there, and it was a I think it was like some sort of skincare convention, and they had all these these sort of really hip young men and women, would look like in their 20s or whatever, or 30s. All of them had either black dresses. The women all had black dresses on, black sundresses, or and the men had black shirts and black pants and stuff. I mean, they all looked like super tan and super trendy.
Yeah.
And they all had tats and stuff on them for some reason, but they were all at this beauty convention, and it was like it was like for a line of beauty products. So I'm thinking, this looks like a giant sort of pyramid scheme convention or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's very North American. So I don't know, but that was like, that's, I've never seen anything like that in Italy before, but whatever. So, it's
Yeah.
you never know what you'll find. This is bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, Unison and Opera. I mean, it's just as a family operation, and there stuff is. I mean, the stuff that they make is not inexpensive. I mean, it's not. Some of the stuff they make is, relatively speaking, in sort of high end, hi-fi terms, approachable. I mean, it's not like, they make some very, very expensive stuff, but they also make some stuff isn't crazy expensive. But part besides how something sounds and the quality of the manufacture and stuff. I mean, when you see the man hours or the people hours that go into it, and just the attention to detail and the quality of the workmanship, it's kind of like it sort of fills in the blanks as to why something may cost what it does. So why this may cost more than, say, something X that's comparable feature wise, but not built in the same way. So
yeah, I guess there's a penchant for everyone to sort of chase specs, but like when it comes to certain things are pieces of furniture or objects of desire sort of thing. It's like you want to showcase that, and like there is a price tag for that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everyone, and mostly myself included, I think most people just don't want or as they get into this hi-fi space, we just don't want a big black box on our media unit. We want something that we actually like looking at, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And once you sort of once you sort of see how they do what they do, it's kind of like, I'd pay the extra money for it to have something that was built in that way and was built with that sort of care and attention and knowledge and craftsmanship. I mean, I would gladly pay extra for it because I think I value that, and I think if more people saw it, I think more people would understand and probably value it as well. Because hi-fi can easily be a bit of a commodity. It can turn into a bit of a commodity. It's like,
yeah, tech is sort of moving that way. Where before, I don't know, analogy on the spot's probably gonna be really bad, but before the iPhone, they're phones were just kind of phones, cell phones were cell phones, but they weren't as disposable as they are now. Like there's a new one comes out every year.
Yeah.
It's got all the new stuff, so you have to buy that one and you throw out your old pocket computer. And I feel like with especially more so with amplifiers now, where it has to have, I'm guilty of this, has to have HDMI ARC and home theater bypass. And if it doesn't have all these things, then it's just kind of I'm waiting for the next thing, and then the new spec will come out, and then it's all my stuff is old, I got to trade it. But that didn't used to happen.
Yeah.
Before it was just here's your amplifier, use it for the next 20 years. It's just it's a thing.
Yep. Yeah. And, and what sort of one of the things that kind of impressed me the most when talking to those guys at Unison was that, okay, so they've been around for about 40 years now, roughly 40 years. And they have parts for, they walked us through their parts department, and they have parts for everything they've made in the past 40 years, everything. And I asked Bartolomeo, I said, well, how far back can you repair something or fix something? Or he said, from the very first thing we've ever made, we have replacement parts for it. And if we don't happen to have the exact part, we can fabricate it. So doesn't matter if someone brought in the very first amp that we ever made, we will fix it. We can fix it, and it'll be as good as new. So that's awesome. That's pretty wild. So yeah. And it's just like those guys, Bart and his brother are just hysterical. I mean, they had us at dinner, besides, being, great hosts and, and have like a great factory. They're just great people in general. And they're just absolutely hysterical. Just really, really amazing, fun people. And their mom is like Donatella. She's like, just an amazing lady, and you can tell. I mean, they adore her, and but as the mom, she also can call the shots too, and they listen and stuff. And
was there any like yelling back and forth with anyone? That's another thing I just imagine in my head.
Oh, it's Italian. I mean, everyone is like talking. Normal talking is at like what normal people consider yelling volume. So it's not. It's like the volume level was generally louder. It just regular conversations. There was that just is what it is. But when I was there last year, because Donatella was like, fortunately, she, I think she had sprained something, and so she was using a cane while we were there. But she had made us lunch actually last year when we visited, because I visited them last year, and they laid out this huge spread and she just made fantastic homemade food, and it was just like, oh, this is delicious.
That's awesome.
So it's like, so very Italian, like.
In that region of Italy, do they have a specific like ragu? Like I heard this is a thing where like some regions don't use garlic, some places don't use basil, some places don't use.
Yeah, like, every place
has got have a specific.
I don't know if there was specific. I just know everything we ate was freaking awesome. It was just so good. We had. I think we had. I don't know how many times. I don't know. I don't know if it was we were there or if this is when we got to Goldnote. But we had I think at one point between breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we had 3 different types of tiramisu in like 3 different places. And it was like Randy and Michael and Jason and I were all like we were all sitting there going, okay, which one was your favorite tiramisu? I mean, which one is like, we had this one in the morning that was like lighter or whatever, and we had this one in the midday that was like this rich, heavy thing with like they had extra egg yolks in it, and then the other one at dinner which was like this different, and we were just like back and forth like, oh, which one was our favorite? So but it was just,
your stomach must have been destroyed.
Oh just man,
just tiramisu 3 times a day. Oh my god.
Genetically I can still handle it. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do that, but genetically I'm still okay. But yeah,
I remember when I did Italy, I bought cheese at the market because like when you buy Parmesan cheese here in Canada, like for a wedge, it's like $25, right? It sucks. But then like I went there and it was €7 for like a pound of Parmesan. And so I bought it
for a wedge here in Ohio. It's like between $12 and $15. Yeah, so I get it.
And so like when we were there, I bought it. I carried it with me every place we went.
Everywhere I went, like
for like 2 weeks, and I couldn't finish it. Like I was trying, I was eating it just for no reason. I'd have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and like I would just cut off a slab. I'm like, I got to eat this, but like I still had I think a pound, like a half pound of cheese left. I just couldn't get through it.
Oh my god!
But.
Well, I hope you ate it with some other stuff. I mean, eating Parmesan alone is like, I mean,
I ate it with everything. Just
grate it in my coffee. There you go.
Oh, okay. Besides that,
I think one of the one of the things, this was like a sort of like a dessert, I guess it was a dessert thing. In that region, it was actually very popular. Uh, First tried it at this pizza place we were at, a great pizza, by the way. This it's like it comes in a glass, and it's kind of like a lemon granita, but not quite granita sort of thing. It's called scropino, and it's like
Okay.
it's lemon, and it's I don't want to say, maybe it's a little bit of lemon gelato, lemon, limoncello, and maybe something else in there. But it's like you have it after your dinner. It's kind of a palate cleanser kind of thing, and it's just, oh my god, it was like the best thing I ever had. It was so tasty.
That's awesome.
But it was like an adult dessert because of the alcohol and the limoncello in it. But it was just like, oh, I mean, I could have gone through like a half a dozen of them, and probably gotten hammered. I don't know, but it was so good, so good. Um, yeah. So
That is the
anyway,
thing to do.
yes, yes. Um, so I guess so that essentially, I mean, was a visit to Unison and Unison Opera.
Mhm.
And then from there, we ended up going to Tuscany, the Florence region, and it's where we visited Goldnote. And Goldnote, each one of these places is very different. I mean, you can't mistake one for the other. I mean, they're not like they're all very different from each other. Where Unison Opera was like, very sort of old school tubes, hybrid stuff.
Mhm.
And it had that sort of like a kind of classic feel to it. Goldnote, very modern, very design wise, very modern stuff. They're I mean, each one of these places is kind of like in an industrial park, is where their factories are. Goldnote, though, is like
Oh,
Goldnote's
I like.
complex is like is slightly resortish. It's like they have an indoor swimming pool on the first level. They have like artwork, like modern artwork, all over their walls. Um, the the styling of their equipment is completely different. I mean, it's very very modern looking, very sort of clean lines. Um, there's it's just a whole different design aesthetic. Um,
Okay.
Something there's something more ornate, I guess, about it in some way, in some respects, particularly the speakers. There's some there's one of their main colors that they use in the color palette is gold. That's Gold Note. So that alone kind of adds a little sort of visual flash to stuff. But if you look at some of their speakers and things, there's an ornateness to them that's different than the other brands. And that may have something to do with the region they're in, stuff, Tuscany, Florence, the Renaissance, all that jazz. I tend to think that sort of that mindset and the design aesthetic sort of filters into that. Um,
It looks very audio show. Like
mm,
there's the stuff that you see, and then when you go into the high end room, you're like, oh, there's definitely a look to that higher end stuff.
there's a bit more
You know?
visual flash and bling to it. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about Goldnote too is, I mean, they also are like one of the few manufacturers that make um, they're they're really crafty and clever about some of the stuff they make. They're one of the few manufacturers that make sort of half-sized, I guess, gear. So you know how most audio electronics are like are particular sort of that same sort of size that fits in a rack or whatever. The Gold Note makes like half-size gear and really capable half-size gear. So I forget if it's their is it their 5 series or whatever, or 10 series, or I forget, but you can make. I mean, they have an all-in-one that's basically not as big as like some headphone amps or DACs or whatever. And all you need to do is add speakers, and there you go. Um,
Yeah.
and
The IS 1000
IS 1000. I don't have it in front of me.
or no, the IS 10.
IS 10.
IS 10.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the IS 10 off the top of my head, but you can add, if that's the integrated that I'm thinking of, you can actually add if you want more power, you can add another similar sized sort of monoblock amp part to it, so you can actually double up the power and just have just take the size of one typical rack component. So it's just the way they sort of think about stuff and engineer their stuff is very, very clever. Goldnote started, I think they have a different background in that they have a long history of doing custom manufacturing for other manufacturers. So they used to do a lot of ODM and OEM work for a lot of other manufacturers that you wouldn't know it, but they built a lot of other manufacturers' stuff. So basically, they acquired a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge in that they built under their brand now. Under their own, they build everything. I mean, they build turntables, they build cartridges, they build speakers, they build integrateds, they build streamer. I mean, soup to nuts. They can produce it all, and they develop it all in house. So I mean, they have a really, really deep well of experience and knowledge. And again, with them, it's a similar sort of deal with as Unison and Opera, where that they source everything as close to them as possible. So all their speaker drivers are from an Italian speaker driver manufacturer. All their componentry, all Italian, as much as possible. So they try. I think they said within like a 50 to 100 mile radius. I think of them is where they try to source everything from. Yeah, but yeah, very clever.
Sorry to interrupt. How do you feel about half width gear?
Half width gear?
Yeah,
I like it actually. I mean, I think it's really cool, and I think it fits. I think it fits a need these days for people, especially like in Europe, and having just been to Singapore and seeing with the space people. I mean, living in Ohio, I have like a decent sized house. I have room. In North America, we tend to have room. A lot of other places do not. And I mean, and these days, I in you being in Canada and Toronto, I know what the price of real estate is in Toronto. And
I'm currently downsizing. Like I went from a giant house to a one bedroom plus den condo, and so like I can make it fit just because like my place is set up to shoot. But like,
oh yeah,
like there's definitely space concerns. I prefer half width gear. Like I
totally.
Like the fact that like everything is kind of built the same width and presumably to fit into a rack. I don't know that most people use a rack in this.
Yeah, that's sort of like kind of old thinking.
It's like an antiquated thing.
Yeah. No, half width gear is great. You don't see it often, but when you see it, it's like, and especially the way Goldnote designs it, it's really, really smart. And it's very feature rich too. I think they're integrated. I mean, I think you were talking about HDMI ARC. I think their integrateds have HDMI ARC, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm looking for a rear image. Rear panel. Okay, let me see. No.
No, they don't? Okay.
No, they have Ethernet and then USB for updates. But at some point they will.
I'm sure they will at some point. Yeah. But,
everyone's going to.
Yeah. But no, their stuff is just again seriously overbuilt and nicely put together, and I like their turntables in particular. I think are kind of pretty. There's one called the Mediterraneo X that's I think it's just like really gorgeous looking. It's got like a walnut base to it. It's really actually kind of sexy, I think. Um, but
Yeah, those look really cool.
yeah,
They look like isometric cross sections of land. You ever see those
yeah,
images, those
exactly,
illustrations?
yeah,
Yeah, it looks like that, where like the wood sort of flows behind. And there'll
hmm
be an image over us talking right now, but yeah, like
totally,
yeah, that looks really cool.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, they again, it's just visiting them, and they have the whole their whole operation. They use oh god, I forget what it's called. Um, what is it? Um, there are these terms for like production line and efficiency stuff. I mean, that they use that I think big companies and whatever use that these guys use as well. I forget the name. It's Six Sigma or some such thing, or I forget what it's called. Anyway, they've basically designed themselves to be like super efficient in terms of their manufacturing. I mean, all still done by hand, all still done by craftsmen and stuff, but it's like with a twist where it's kind of like they've made these for example, I mean, they've fabricated these special carts that when the a person is assembling the whatever it is that they're working on, everything that they need is located on that cart. So I mean, it's just wheeled into position. Everything they need to put together the component they're putting together is there at like a hand's reach or whatever. So there's no wasted movement. There's no wasted time going down the hallway or to another floor to get something or whatever. It's I mean they've completely streamlined their whole manufacturing process to make it hyper efficient, but still not losing the human touch. I guess is for lack of a better way to express it.
I'm looking on their site now, and I'm just reminded of our last cover where like you're talking like batshit crazy turntables.
Yeah.
They have one.
Yes.
I believe it's the Bellagio Conquest. Did you get a chance to like look at that?
Yes, they had one there. We were listening to it actually. The one they had there, I don't not having the luxury of seeing it on the screen. Does it like covered in gold? Is it like gold covered or colored or whatever?
No, this one's all black.
Okay.
And it looks like it says 125 centimeters in height. And it weighs 100 kilograms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's all black. It looks like shiny, but like the turntables at the top and the platter for the turntable is like 4 inches, and then there's just stuff below
this sort of construct underneath it or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess it's all for like balance and leveling,
structure, balance, and all that jazz. But the one that they had at the factory or whatever was covered in hammered gold leaf. It was completely covered. I have photos of it, and I'll send them to you so you might be able to pop in the video. But it was like it's covered in hammered gold leaf, 24 karat gold leaf, and it was just like. And Randy from Cheap Audio Man was going, is this a gold plated turntable? And they're like, yes, it's a gold plated turntable. It's like covered in gold leaf. And I was like, oh my God.
So like that has a buyer already, I imagine.
I'm
right?
sure.
Like
yeah. There's an
no
oligarch.
Way.
There's an oligarch somewhere that's gonna have
one of the sheiks that's gonna.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. One of the sheiks that's gonna show up as a guest star on one of the next podcasts. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's gonna drive it home. It's be in the back of his like there was the Lamborghini SUV or something like that.
I don't know. I feel like the packaging for that is just going to be ridiculous.
Oh, I'm
you
sure.
would need like it, and then maybe it needs a personal setup as well.
Yeah, a dealer would be setting that up for sure. A dealer or a company rep would be flying out and setting that up. A buyer wouldn't be doing that on his own. There's no way. Yeah.
So there's like it says, I'm just reading it. There's a rocker arm, like with an elliptical counterweight. So I think that's what's hanging down the middle of this.
Probably. Yeah. and I'm sure it's got provisions for
amazing.
more than a couple of tone arms on it. So yeah. Jeez.
That's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
There's something for someone.
Yeah, there is. There is. I mean, there's this. Like I said, this is definitely a whole different aesthetic from audio from Unison and opera. So I mean, very
I
distinctive.
wonder if it's a thing where remember you saw Back to the Future. So
Yeah, yeah.
remember when Marty McFly goes into the doc's house and he's not home and there's that giant speaker behind
Mhm.
him
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
strums the guitar and he gets blown back.
Yeah.
I think anyone that sees ridiculous hi-fi gear gets
Mhm.
the big speaker.
Mhm.
Because big speaker means big sound. So
Right.
I feel like big speakers just get a pass no matter what. Like I think it was was it the last was it like Expono where there was like a giant subwoofer that was like 10 feet high or something like that?
It was probably one of the seediest shows I went to. I think it was like that was probably like an Ascendo uh, subwoofer that has that's probably bigger than me. Yeah.
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 So I feel like that's forgivable for most people because they just see big speakers, so they just makes big sound. But then when you get into the weeds of this hobby, then all the other stuff slowly makes sense to fewer people, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah. Well, I think speakers get a pass also because I mean, back in the early days of hi-fi, I mean, everything was like a console. I mean, your speakers are built into a console. To actually get decent sound out of a speaker, it had to be somewhat big and like jammed into a corner. Everything
yeah,
was probably like the size of a clipshorn or thereabouts or whatever. So yeah,
yeah,
I think there is that, and also, you go to like a dance club or something like that. I don't know if anyone still goes to dance clubs anymore. I'm dating myself,
you
but I
said
mean,
dance club.
yeah, dance club, right. But there are big arrays of speakers and shit that
Yeah,
were
yeah.
like pumping out music and all that stuff. So yeah. So there's still that, but yeah, giant turntables on massive, intricate constructs and reel to reel
That
decks.
target demo is much smaller than the big speaker demo, I think.
Probably much
Yeah,
smaller. Yeah.
yeah.
Very committed, but smaller, I'm sure.
What is the craziest turntable that you would buy? Like with that?
That I would buy.
Yeah, like what would be what would extent of turntable? Like again, Sheik's buying you something. What would you get? Like
Oh, man. It would probably be something. Mediterranean X is a nice turntable. I like that. It's pretty.
yeah.
I really like that. I wouldn't go for any of the big sort of batshit, Rube Goldberg turntables. Um,
Mhm.
Clear Audio makes some nice, unique turntables that are not like ginormous and massive, but you know, I'm a little too set in my ways. I mean, I grew up as a CD kid, and I like and I've always liked, and I know there's people are going to groan out there, but it's like I like a Technics SL 1200. I like a direct drive turntable. To me, a turntable, it's not direct drive, it's being spun by a rubber band. I want something more advanced to spin my records than a rubber band. Um, Call me crazy, but that's just kind of the way I am. So I would probably find like the craziest or most advanced direct drive turntable I could find, whatever that is. It might be one of the high end Techniques things that look sort of cool and minimalist, or it might be something else. I don't know, but you know, yeah, turntables are cool, but they've never been like um, a big tug at my heartstrings so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sorry. It's not a romanticized answer.
So then, you're a CD guy. Then would you go would you throw a bunch of money down on a crazy CD player, or does it not matter really? Because Because like with
This,
CDs, it's kind of like a transport makes more sense, doesn't it? Like,
yes,
it's
but
just ones and zeros.
here's the thing:
Okay.
the logical side of me would say no. I would I just get a nicely put together, CD transport, and you're fine. Hell, my Oppo 105 still spins and it sounds great, and I mean it still works. But, but, there is this thing called the WADX. Yeah, WADX. It's their reference transport. It's this behemoth of a thing that looks as alien could be. And the only reason I would buy it is because the door where you put the CD in, or the SACD or whatever in, is basically an opening and closing iris. So it's basically like, it's got that sort of that sort of iris thing that opens up, puts your disc in there, and then it closes shut. And I saw that in real life at a show, and I'm like, that is the coolest freaking thing I have ever seen, and I would buy it just for that. I just so I could see that iris open and close like that. I mean,
do you remember what the MSRP was for that?
It was like maybe it was $160,000 or something like that. I mean, if I had like gajillions of dollars, I would buy that just for that iris or whatever, because it's just if someone made something more affordable with an iris thing that did that, I would be all, and it looked cool, I would be all over it. Because I mean, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for stuff like that. I'm a total sucker for stuff like that. So,
yeah.
How about you? I mean, what would you?
I mean, I would just want a newer version of my 1200s. I mean, they're great. Like those Lambo ones we talked about. Yeah, those. I'll take one. I'll take one of those. Bill
Voss,
send a Lambo over.
Send a Lambo turntable to Taps, please.
But I wouldn't even mind like one of the crazier higher end ones. But like, just know I'm going to beat the shit out of it. Like it's just like it's going to take abuse from me.
Yeah.
Like so.
But those tables,
especially if it's going to be mine in the long term.
But those tables are designed to take it. I mean, they will take it. And just so I mean, just so we're clear on this. I mean, we sort of touched on it in the last conversation about techniques in the SL1200, and you mentioned and how they didn't really, with the price of them, they weren't really sort of DJ friendly or whatever.
Yeah.
And well, the dirty little secret is, I mean, when the 1200 originally came out, it didn't come out it was never designed as a DJ turntable. It never was. It was just designed as an audiophile or an audio turntable. And DJs gravitated to it because they could beat the tar out of it, and it did the job, and it did it really well. And it took techniques by surprise, and they were like, they went with it. It opened up a market for them. So, I mean, it was never designed. They never had a lock or were targeting that market to begin with ever. It just sort of fell into their lap. So, but I love a good 1200. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of their more expensive ones and they look cool, but like, I wouldn't say no to it, but just knowing me, I'm like my, but I don't know if you can see it. My mixer right there, my old Rain mixer. Like one of the reasons I got it is because I used to chain smoke, and so between the faders, I could put an ashtray. Like it fit.
It was ergonomically made for a chain smoker.
Yeah, I could fit an ashtray right there, and so like the up faders didn't like I could still use them, and like it wouldn't hamper it too much.
Oh my god,
like
that's hysterical!
The perfect thing.
Oh my god, yeah, the mixer for chain smokers. There we go.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking direct drive tables, I will say I had the VPI Avenger Direct in here, and that was a hell of a nice direct drive turntable. And I mean, it was a beast, but it wasn't a ridiculous beast. It was $36,000. So that's again, it's not the same as the $165,000 CD transport that I'm going after, that I'm interested in. But that was a nice direct drive turntable, and it sounded great. It had a beautiful big tone arm on it.
I also think though, because like the the demographic that's buying these things is so much smaller. It's like part of the price tag is the fact that they're not going to be making very many of them. So it's like when these products go to the supply chain, they're just going to be expensive to produce. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
Mm-hmm.
so like that's kind of like what's attributing to the high cost of these things. It's just the supply and demand factor of this. It's just
There is that, but you know what? I will say this: I just got I haven't set it up yet, but I just got a TIAC a TIAC direct drive turntable in it, and it retails for about, I think it retails for about $7.99. I think it is, and
Mhm.
it's a really nice table. It's a really nice turntable.
Oh.
It looks really pretty. It's got the sort of the wood sort of plinth, um, and it's got everything you need, and it's, not $7.99 for a turntable these days is not ridiculous. Um, Comes with a decent
You
a decent Ortofon cartridge on it, so yeah, so it is
you should
possible.
try the Alva TT. That one is
Mm,
just that's like as far as consumer turntables that direct drive,
hmm.
like that's the one. Like
Yeah.
it's like getting it like when I opening up the box and getting it set up is quite literally like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Like it's so easy to do, and then there comes the leveler that you can just like you could quickly level in like a matter of minutes, and then
Hmm.
like right now I have it set up like my media unit is in one place with my the amp and receiver,
Hmm.
but then there's no room for the turntable, so I
Hmm.
have it again like on the other side of my couch, and I just have it connected via Bluetooth right now because like I can, you know, it's awesome.
Well, hey, that's a pretty turntable as well. I mean, that was the pictures I've seen of it. It is really nice. Yeah. So
Yeah,
there are some good options out there that aren't silly money. So, you know,
but this Mediterranean X one you're looking at looks
yeah,
that just looks pretty.
yeah,
Like that wins on
it's
looks alone.
it's a gorgeous
Sorry.
looking piece of Italian design for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, so I mean, so Goldnote was a completely different animal, but yeah, again, um, still a small operation, still family run, and
Hmm.
just really, really neat, really neat artisanal handmade stuff. Just with a different flair to it than anything else, and they did everything. I mean, there aren't a ton of audio manufacturers that are able to do everything, but they can, which makes them unique.
Okay.
Um, so after that, we went towards Civitavecchia, which is just north of Rome. It's like it's where all the it's funny, it's where all the cruise ships show up. If you ever seen an old episodes of the Love Boat, I'm sure there's a few of them where they show, where the ship pulls up with Gopher and the gang in Civitavecchia. Uh, um, there we visited Audia Flight, which makes solid state electronics, amps, integrated amps, SACD players, um, and like photo preamps and stuff like that. And the sister company is Alare, which I think currently has owned two models of speakers in the line. Um, but again, yeah, yeah, just small operation, very small operation. I think probably the smallest out of the three we visited. Um, but um, geez, well, first of all, Civitavecchia is like a port town, and it's beautiful. It's right by the ocean. There is like an old fort there that was like, I think, designed by Michelangelo, which is just like a gorgeous. There's like a there's like a museum there of like all these antiquities of what is it Etruscans and stuff or whatever, but just like there's like just really sort of old museums and stuff there. Um, some of the best pizza. Oh my god, some of the best pizza we had was there. Um, but yeah, a whole different flavor. Um, but the electronics that this okay, so Audio Flight, the electronics they make are like, if I could, uh, I don't want to. If I could compare them to something like to a North American brand at all, or like it would almost be. And some people, and I don't hope they wouldn't be insulted by me saying this and or whatever, but I would almost say like something like Bryston or Boulder or whatever. I mean, they if you thought if I told you that the transformers that the transformers that Unison used were overbuilt, oh my god, the stuff these guys use is like obscene. I mean,
They look like high-end cinder blocks. They're like
yes,
so big.
yeah. I mean, they're huge, and it's funny the sort of the weird the not weird it's the black sort of like ensign or logo or mark that they have on all their gear. It's supposed to, I think it's supposed to be like a bird in flight, but but Randy mentioned how he thought it looked like one of the Cylons from like the new Battlestar Galactic, the newer Battlestar Galactica thing. It looked like one of the Cylon things. It's like it totally does. we were telling the Audia Flight guys, you guys really needed to have like a little red LED that goes back and forth between either ends of them, and the sound effect.
Yeah. Also, like, was it The Day the Earth Stood Still? The remake of that?
Yeah.
The robot there.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. But their stuff is like all transistor, no tubes, all transistor, solid state stuff, and just immense amounts of power, clean, low distortion power, and just like even the modest integrated amps that they make are capable of driving like low impedance speaker loads. They have there's a certain level of modularity to their integrateds and their preamps and stuff where you can add sort of like expansion cards, I guess, if you want to say if say you wanted to add a DAC or a phono stage later on down the road, if you didn't spec it out that way to begin with. Very well thought out, but classic hi-fi gear, but just really powerful. I mean, it's stuff you buy it and you keep it and it will never be replaced, basically, is the whole feeling this stuff gives you. But yeah, I mean, they showed us the transformers for like the big Strumento stereo amps and the monoblock amps, and I mean, we're talking the transformer alone was like twice the size of my head. I mean, in a sealed box full of resin. It just, it was almost absurd, but it just it was just like unbelievable.
It's 500 watts into 8 ohms.
Yeah,
and as a monoblock, and then
double
for
that
1,000 for 2,000. Like that's like silly amounts of power.
But it just like it's just beautifully built stuff. I mean, absolutely beautifully. I mean, they go. I mean, in terms of like isolating the transformers from the chassis, isolating the various components. I mean, they just go to town. I mean, they are. It's unreal.
So when a customer buys this stuff, again, novice question, like you don't just plug this into any wall outlet, right? Like
you can.
Do you have to get a specific type of like?
Well, here's the. I mean,
does that make a difference, or
like, are you talking? You need like some like power conditioner thing, or are you?
Yeah, or do you need a certain amperage in your house and a separate circuit breaker?
If you have like some really big power amps, like some of these monoblocks, you probably want to have 20 amp service coming into your house as opposed to 15.
Yeah. Okay.
So to get the full benefit and the full power out of them, full rated power, you probably want 20 amp service coming into your house.
Okay.
I know some subwoofers are designed that way too. I think some really big subwoofers that have big powerful amps in them, same sort of thing.
Okay.
There is various schools of thought as to whether it is of any benefit at all to plug a serious amp like this into some sort of power thing. Most people will probably tell you just plug it directly into the wall, so that way there's no current limiting at all when if you are taxing the amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably some heavy duty power plant conditioner things, like stuff made by Taurus comes to mind, or a couple other manufacturers like that make these big serious things that you would probably work. But I think most people would probably tell you for an amp of that capacity, straight plug into the wall. If you have the 20 amp service, or you provided that your wiring is fairly modern, you should be just fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they just actually released a new SACD player, which was it's a really pretty unit. Had like a sliding door up at the top, and everything was just nicely built and isolated, and just they showed us the door mechanism, and it was, of course, like not just any old door mechanism. It was like this thing on sliding rails and all this stuff, and it was just like, whoa,
yeah,
okay.
It's a very cost no object.
Yes, these things are the Audia Flight stuff is not built to a particular budget. They build it the best they can build it for the target, and it's priced accordingly. So yeah, that's how they operate basically. And I guess the speakers from Malaria are the same way. You have the Remiga 1s, which are the smaller ones, and the Remiga 2, which are the bigger ones. Similar design, just sort of different driver sizes and stuff. But just gorgeous sounding speakers. And we got a demo of them with Audia Flight Electronics in their listening room, and just gorgeous sounding speakers. I would love to get a pair of those. That's if I could afford them ever.
I have to ask, and this might be just a moot question, but since it is cost no object, do their amps have tone controls on them?
I don't have them in front of me. You can pull up the integrateds and see if they have tone controls. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't have the things in front of me.
I'm just curious.
I knew you were going to ask that question.
Oh, it cuts off in the bottom. Okay, let me just zoom in here.
Yeah, probably the FLS series.
Oh, they don't zoom in.
No,
they're. I guess
you're out of luck.
You see images on a site, and then you click it. When you click it, and it opens up, it's a smaller image.
Oh, let's see.
No, it just looks like source selection on the front. That's all I see.
I'm sorry.
No, Taps, these are not for you.
Well, they may sound,
but they have a phase button.
They have a phase button. Okay, they may sound ballsy enough that you don't need it. They might think you don't need tone controls.
That could very well be the case.
But let me see.
But I thought I'd ask.
No. Well, it never hurts to ask. It's okay.
Yeah.
But
I will forever ask for tone controls. It's just that's never going to go away.
Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, I'm looking at these things. FLS 10. Hold on, FLS 10 integrated. Let me look at this. Yeah. Yes. No. It doesn't, unless I'm missing something, or unless it's something
because they're just buttons. They don't look like tweakable things.
You can adjust in the. Yeah, I don't think so, man.
I think this is for the demographic that would rather treat the room and isolate everything to get the most valued.
Yeah.
And I also don't think they're listening to drum and bass.
Maybe not. But yeah, no, just super gorgeous stuff. And yeah, like I said, they were probably the smallest group, and the tightest knit smallest group out of the bunch. But yeah, they again, everything just sourced locally, all made there by hand. Yeah,
organic.
Yeah, Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. Yeah, and yeah, those speakers, those was that they had was it the one? It was the ones they had, the ones or the twos. I forget now what they had, but they just looked gorgeous and they just sounded phenomenal. And yeah, like I said, you could the drivers I think were sourced from Accuton, and so I think they were the mid ranges and stuff were ceramic drivers, and you could choose. I think there's an option for the tweeter to go for the beryllium tweeter or the diamond tweeter, whatever
Huh.
you know, whatever one might think would be better. But I think we heard the beryllium there, and it was like, this is fine with me. I'll take two. It's like, yeah, just gorgeous, gorgeous sounding speakers, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think if you want one and done, I think that and you have the scratch, that's where you go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
I totally get it.
yeah, yeah. But no, again, and then a totally different design aesthetic from the other two as well. Um,
Yeah.
just their own thing. And the funny thing, and it's like all solid state. I mean, the other two guys, both Goldnote and excuse me, Unison, have either tubes somewhere in their line, like either hybrid or completely valve. Where these guys, none, totally solid state.
Hmm.
So, which is an interesting approach, I guess. So, yeah, but
Cool. So,
yeah,
like, was this the last stop on your Italy tour then, or
that was the last stop. Yeah, after that we took the
did
train.
you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, did you have any time to stick around after to do stuff?
You know what?
Or like,
After we finished up an Audio Flight, we took the train into Rome, and
Mhm.
I unfortunately the other guys hung around for a couple of days in Rome and did some sightseeing in Rome. I unfortunately had to return home because I had the trip to Singapore with my wife 2 days later,
Mm.
so I couldn't hang around. Last year, when we did this trip, I hung around for the extra couple of days in Rome, and that's a blast. I mean, it looked like from what I saw from the stuff the other guys posted, they did very similar stuff to what we did last year. Go to
Yeah.
the Colosseum and a lot of walking around, a lot of gelato, a lot of eating, a lot of pasta.
Yes.
Just good, all around good stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Italy's the place if you're going to eat engulf yourself and engorge yourself in pasta.
Yes.
Just because, like,
Oh my
their
god,
their
yes.
wheat, their flour is better than ours, so like you don't get the
Mhm.
same, I guess, gluten bloat that we get here. So
Gluten bloat. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Oh, last year, one of the best things we ate, or that I ate in Rome, we were just wandering around and just sightseeing, and there was this one little sort of kind of like a takeout restauranty thing. So basically, like not so much a stand, but it was like you go in, you pick up some stuff, a sandwich or whatever, and you take it with you. They had
yeah.
the Italian rice balls called arancini. So basically, they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, those deep fried Italian rice balls that have various inside the middle. They'll have like maybe some
Hmm.
some meat and some tomato sauce and stuff in them. Um,
Hmm.
had one of those. I grabbed one of those because particularly because they said the restaurant was made like Sicilian specialties, and that's where my family's from. And it just
Yeah.
ate one of these things as we were walking around, and it was like the best bite of anything I had ever eaten. Good lord. It's like every single, you're eating this, like every single pore of your body just like opens up and it's screaming, "Oh my god, this is delicious!" You know,
Yeah.
you know. It's like it made your hair follicles tingle. It was just weird. It was just weird. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's something about Italian food, Italian anything, but basically Italian food in particular. That's just like it's just phenomenal stuff. Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
but yeah, that was definitely that was definitely the nutshell in a nutshell, an hour long nutshell. Sorry, of the trip to Italy, and it was, yeah, yeah, I mean, visiting those manufacturers and seeing what they do and how they do it, and just that just that personal one-on-one attention to detail and passion for the craft it's you need to see that to really sort of to even sort of get a kind of appreciation of why some of this stuff is as special as it is, and B, may cost what it does, because it
Yeah.
just, it's a whole, it's not commodity hi-fi. It is not something off, it's not off the rack stuff. It is,
Yeah.
just made to order, limited quantity, um, just, and beautiful sounding stuff. So, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
it's one of the, it's part of the things that makes hi-fi, really fun for me. It's like, it's the uniqueness. I mean, 3 Italian manufacturers, but each one of them incredibly unique and different from the other in most
Mm-hmm.
ways, but at their core, all very much, sort of the same in terms of the passion and the drive in what they do. So that's probably the best way I could describe it. And it'll be interesting if this because if this Japan trip works out with visiting Stacks that we've kind of been talking
Mm-hmm.
about. I'm really curious to visit them because they are a very old company, and
Mm-hmm.
and to me it's like, passionate audio and handmade and the artisanal aspect of it isn't just strictly the province of Italian hi-fi. I mean, the Japanese, they have, I mean,
Oh yeah.
their whole design and aesthetic and just philosophy is different, but the passion behind it is the same. It's just not, you wear it on you. It's not like how Italians wear stuff on their sleeve, and it's like, everything's loud, everything's in your face and out there and stuff. And where I'm curious to see and experience that difference. The more
Mm-hmm.
quiet, but no less, um, no less determined and passionate,
Yeah.
mission and what they make in terms of hi-fi
That whole
stuff.
thing
So
of do something really well, do one thing well,
yes,
and I
yes,
like that.
exactly. That just singular, purpose.
Yeah.
It's very
There's a
appealing.
place in Tokyo that just makes like one type of pizza. I think it's like they just make margarita pizza and that's it.
Hey,
And like it's like that's like
if
the whole
we
do
go,
one
let's
thing
check it
well
out.
thing.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
I'm always down for a
I
good margarita pizza, no matter where it is.
yeah, I'm gonna gain like 20 pounds if I get to go. So it's just
Oh, yeah, I'll
I'm just
probably
gonna
gain
eat and
40.
drink my way through that country, and so
We'll see. We'll
pastry is
see.
really big there.
Yes, I know. Yeah. It's turned into a
Apparently,
thing, isn't it?
well, no. So apparently, from what I understand, I'll butcher the story a little bit. But I think it's in the 60s or 70s. A bunch of Japanese chefs went to France to learn how to
Ah,
like cook
patisserie. Yeah.
French food and like learn the techniques of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they came back, they applied that technique to their own cuisine, and that's kind of how like Japanese food has transitioned out of like the curries and like the staples
Right.
to like what it is
They
now.
modify it to
It's a
help
bit more
appeal to the
showy,
Japanese palate or whatever. Yeah. Interesting.
but showy, a bit more delicate. And then
Yeah.
because of that, I think uh, there's just so many pastry shops, like the ground floor of like department stores, or sometimes the basement of department stores is just all
Mhm.
pastry, and it's heaven.
There's a Japanese market, actually just in Columbus called Tensuke Market, and there is
Mhm.
a Japanese bakery there called, I think it's called Bell's Bread, and they have, very much like you say, just these beautiful, ornate, sophisticated, delicate pastries, and it's kind of like every
Yeah,
time we're like in that neck of the woods, we're like, okay, we're going there. even the bread. Yeah, I mean the just the toast bread they make is just like so pillowy and delicious, and it makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's definitely an empty suitcase trip.
Yes, it is. I'm bringing an extra checked bag. Yeah, absolutely. That's empty when I go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's basically gonna come back with like bottles of sake and all sorts of other cuisine.
Well, to be honest, like what I did last time was like I just brought old shoes and old pants, and like I only brought old stuff, and I just replaced it all, and I just left all my old stuff behind and
That's
came back
funny.
with new stuff.
That's funny.
You know, just your old beat up pair of shoes. That's what I'm gonna wear there, and then I'm just gonna leave them there, and then I'm gonna wear the new pair of shoes home, the new T-shirt home, the new everything.
If we get the okay for this trip, you and I need to sit down and we need to strategize about how we maximize bringing back a whole load of good stuff.
Well, we're gonna have to ship a bunch of stuff back, and then also like I might need to like just bring a bigger suitcase or just or something. We gotta figure it out.
I've been like when I occasionally find myself wandering through my Instagram feed, I like anything that's like it talks about like little hacks for Japan or whatever. I'm like saving to a special folder so I can look them over later or whatever. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, Monocle has a good guide. The Monocle Guide to Tokyo is pretty good. It just kind of gives you everything.
Okay.
There is something worth watching though.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Netflix. It's called. There's like a female chef. It's called Salt, Sour.
Yes,
Fire
I've seen that. I've seen that. Yeah.
So the salt episode, it takes place mostly in Japan, and they make sea salt from like seaweed.
Mm-hmm.
There's the soy sauce one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to that soy sauce place, and I want to try actual soy sauce, not the Kikkoman garbage that I have here. I want to try like real soy sauce.
And
I want to try real mushu salt. I think this is mochi salt or something. Yeah.
I'll try it. I don't mind. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's an episode of there was an episode of Anthony Bourdain's old show where he traveled around
No Reservations.
No Reservations, I think. But this one was specifically focused on Japan. And I might have it on my computer somewhere. I need to look, but I've watched that.
I did a few of those places actually.
Oh yeah,
we did in that episode. He did the robot cafe, a robot restaurant, and so it's in like the sub basement in Shinjuku Club.
Oh my god!
And so we went to that. And it was crazy. The food's terrible, but like the show was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also went to that sushi restaurant. It was like the sixth person is like the chef who used to be a fighter, and his wife owned the place, and he's like super intimidating but like really nice. But there's no menu. It's just like he just makes your food,
right?
And you have no choice, and you just eat it.
It's just whatever the chef's choice.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, and to be honest, like who am I to pick?
Oh yeah. No, I mean I'd much rather be left in the chef's hands when it comes to stuff like that. I mean. Yeah, I'm totally there. I mean, I love.
I mean, we did
sushi.
that when we were in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly
that
right.
restaurant. We're just like, hey, you guys just pick, man.
Oh yeah, there were. I mean, in my years when I lived in Los Angeles, there was a couple of sushi places we went to where that's all it was. And I mean, if you made any attempt to pick something, or you had the nerve to ask for a California roll, they would kick you out. It was like, nope. Not putting up with that. It's like, okay. But no, you learn to trust the chef, and the chef knows, the freshest stuff, and if he likes you, he'll give it to you. So
yeah, my kids have a problem with when we go to restaurants because we're like, Dad, you always do the same thing. You walk in, you look around, you be like, what's that? And then like I'll look at someone else's thing, and I'll be like, can I have that one? I don't know what it is.
Hey, it saves time, If something catches your eye, what the hell? Why not?
There's also I love Japan, but like there's at Kyoto Station.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it. Like any train station in like Toronto or Canada, it's just like that. It's like an old, dilapidated station, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then Kyoto Station is, Osaka Station. Sorry, Osaka Station. I think it's Osaka Station. It looks like I'm gonna get this wrong, but it felt like a triangle, and every tip of the triangle was a gigantic shopping center. like so there, and like on the 10th floor, I think it's the 10th floor, like you take like another 5-story escalator all the way up, and at the top of that there is what I can only describe as like a ramen buffet, where there's like every top restaurant in like Japan has a ramen restaurant there, like a smaller version of it, and you can just kind of pick and choose which one you want to go eat at.
Oh man, you're killing me.
So me and my kids and my ex-wife did it, and what the place we picked had unlimited eggs. So you just get your ramen and then just give you a bowl of eggs. And like it ruined ramen for me for the rest of my life, because now I need at least 3 eggs.
Eggs in
So,
every
like,
bowl of ramen.
Every bowl of ramen cost like $30 for me. It's like I just
Oh my god, that's crazy. That's crazy.
yeah.
No, I hope everything falls into place and it happens, because I'm
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers and toes. It would be a fantastic audio trip, because I mean I'd love to visit Stax, and because I'm a huge fan of their electrostatic headphones. But bucket list trip for me has always been to Japan. I would and on a sort of a more personal note, I don't know if this is even possible. One of the artists, he was actually a mentor of mine. He was a Japanese artist. When I worked at Disney, he was a Miya-san. He was like a mentor of mine, and I learned so much from him, in terms of drawing and everything. I mean, he was an amazing guy, super skilled. He and his wife, I think, they moved back to after I left. I think he retired from Disney soon after I left, and then he and his wife moved back to Japan, actually. And I just found out that he passed away earlier this year. And I don't know if there's any way to find out where. I don't know how the Japanese culture treats things in terms of like cemeteries, funerals, and stuff like that. I just don't know if there was a way to find out where he might be buried, if it's anywhere even near where we're going to be, and just sort of visiting it and paying respects. I mean, this is me talking in sort of the Italian tradition of like, visiting someone who's passed away at a cemetery and paying respects.
There's got to be something, even if it's to their children or to if his wife is still alive, of like a thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll need to find out. But I would. I mean, if it was in any way possible to do it, I would love. I would love to pay my respects, just because. I mean, he was amazing. But I mean, again, I don't know if it's even going to be possible. But it's just something that's kind of been on my mind for a little bit. But that's different. It's a different thing. But maybe some people.
We definitely if this becomes a thing, we need to put a plan of attack together. Just figure out like what can we sneak in on this trip. Yeah.
That'll definitely be something we'll need to figure out for sure. So, but yeah. Probably before we finish this, wrap this up or whatever. I think the newest thing I got in terms of gear is SVS just dropped off yesterday. Their
you got it?
Yep, the Pinnacle. The Prime Pinnacle towers. They're in the garage right now in boxes on a pallet. I'll need to get them down.
Nice. And
get them in the system this weekend. But looking forward to those. That'll be cool to have in here. And,
that's awesome.
See what they do. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think of those.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, the whole thing with the bass drivers in the back as well as in the front, and how it couples with the room. I'm excited to kind of sit down and take a listen to that and see what happens. So, you never know.
Cool.
And this, I think, is the first SVS thing I think I've ever reviewed. I mean, I own a pair of their subs, but I've
really?
I never reviewed anything from them. This will be a first for me. So, looking forward to it.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that is going to be one speaker that I don't ask for, just because of the rear firing drivers. I don't know where I would put it, but like
they make smaller ones, so you never know.
No. The smaller ones for sure. Like
Mhm.
anything that doesn't have drivers on the back, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, just
That's right, you're
like for
downsizing,
my own
yeah.
space concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, for now, and then hopefully I can buy a stupid place in the not too distant future, and then all bets are off, and then it's like, yeah, send them over.
There you go. Awesome.
I want a sub array. That's what I want.
A sub array. I don't just want a sub. I want an array of subwoofers.
Yeah, like you see in pictures where they just stack them on top of each other. I want one of those. I want a few of those. Just like
you're gonna. There's a cartoon in there somewhere. Like,
well,
Taps,
you remember
Taps
the Max?
his wall of subs.
Do you remember the Maxell guy, the '80s?
Oh yeah,
commercial?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want
to be the guy in the chair.
Yeah. That's all I've ever wanted since that commercial came out. So.
Oh my god, yeah. That's an iconic.
I want
piece
maximum
of advertising.
oomph. That's all I want. Oomph. So.
There you go. Well,
all right. So I think we just, and believe it or not, we did an hour 50 just now. So.
Oh my god, are you
so
serious?
we went longer.
Oh, good lord.
So
Shit,
until
these
next
boys can
time, that
talk.
was Carlo. Yeah, until next time, that was Carlo. I'm Taps. This is Sorta Hi-Fi. Thank you for watching / listening. If you made it all the way through, we really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Till next time.